intelligence. You take about the last century, you can really pick apart like what's happened in the trajectory we were on as a culture. It really comes down to what makes life meaningful and what is a good way to live. Like how do I want to spend my time, and what does it take to thrive? And it really is that. Like I prioritized community for probably the last 3 or 4 years and disregarded everything else. So it's been a huge part of my journey to readdress like what makes my life meaningful.
Well, if you look at like how many people are coming off social media, we've lived on it for the past, say, 5-6 years. More and more people I know are coming off the apps. It's almost like they serve their purpose. There's no dopamine left in our brain to be created from these apps. And so we're just sort of coming off it, speaking to people, getting that real connection with people. And so now there's longer time periods between when we go back on social media. And if you keep doing that, essentially you'll have less time on it and more time with people, where you realize, fuck, I've not been on my phone for 7 hours.
Power of belief as well. If you believe that dirty chai drink is gonna help you, then that is the medicine. Like whatever you believe is actually gonna help you more than probably the thing itself, because
yes,
that's why we account for it in trials. It's like the placebo, but also the nocebo effect affects you too. So if you think something is bad for you and you do it anyway, it's going to be even worse.
Just quickly, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who still listens to the podcast. I started 4 years ago, and since then I've had over 1 million downloads. I get 5,000 downloads per month, and I've had over 200 different guests. So a massive thank you to everyone who still listens. If you could please do me a favour, if you could rate and review the podcast, that will be amazing, because it helps get the podcast out to new, conscious people like yourself. And my goal is to awaken as many people around the world. You can also follow me on Instagram. It's YesKingOliver, should you wish to see what I get up to on my day-to-day moments. Back to the episode.
As you know, I've just moved into a conscious community living house, and there are going to be hundreds of us here. And obviously back in the day, we came from like big families. Our grandparents may have had, our grandparents may have had like 10, 15 children, because back then there's no contraception. And so there was just big families, loads of people there all the time, helping out with the cooking, helping out with the children, helping out, going to the post office, going to the garden. Everyone would have a role, and they would all chip in and help the community. And you'd leave your house and you'd have a church, you'd have the milkman, the postman, you'd have the local pub, and everyone's just like in a big family in that area. Nowadays, that's lost. We're all becoming independent, or trying to be independent, where we want to feel like we don't need anybody and we can do it all by ourselves. But deep down, we're still going to always need human connection. And I've recently just moved out of my family house. So I've been with my family my whole life. I don't know any different. And I was going to move to a place by myself. And I didn't know this place existed. And now I compare what my life would have been like in the middle of the country by myself compared to here. I would have been lonely. And it was almost like the universe knew I would have been lonely, despite me wanting to be independent and I can do it by myself. And it's brought me here with the most incredible conscious people. And it just makes me realize so many people are missing out on having connections with people for whatever reason. And there's a U-turn happening in life where we're now coming back into smaller tribes and collectiveness.
Yeah, is there? Do you think there's a U-turn happening? Or do you think we're getting further and further away?
Well, if you look at like how many people are coming off social media, we've lived on it for the past, say, 5-6 years. More and more people I know are coming off the apps. It's almost like they serve their purpose. There's no dopamine left in our brain to be created from these apps. And so we're just sort of coming off it, speaking to people, getting that real connection with people. And so now there's longer time periods between when we go back on social media. And if you keep doing that, essentially you'll have less time on it and more time with people, where you realize, fuck, I've not been on my phone for 7 hours.
Yeah, man, I agree, and I disagree at the same time as well. And I feel we're going to have a great conversation, because I don't think we're going to agree on everything, and we'll find some middle ground too. And what comes up for me is that we're being more and more polarized. There's going to be the extremes of each end of the spectrum being more and more extreme. So you're going to get people who are going to reject the system and the way it's going, and then you're going to get people that are just going along with it because they don't know another way, and they're being quote unquote brainwashed to do so. So it's a polarizing time that we live in. And just to come back to community, it is the most overlooked aspect of our health. It is the one thing that sees our grandparents into old age with a poor diet and lack of movement. It is the one thing that connects us, and without it, like as infants, as children, we will, not survive. So you're right. Where do you want to go from here?
So obviously, if you look at the blue zones, you have all these countries where they are living very long lives, and they're not obsessed about diet and keto and stay away from fats, kind of too much meat and kind of pasta because it's too starchy and carby. They just live their life with people. Like, as you just said, people seems to be the most powerful factor out of diet and everything else, and sleep, because countries that don't necessarily have good sleep and have perfect diets, they've got people and they live happier lives and they live longer. So what does it say? Our life existence is pretty much based on happiness, which translates to high frequencies of energy, which is what we're made from. And because we're not vibrating high, doesn't matter whether you eat food or not, that's like the main cause.
Yeah, and how much of that also is the over intention of I instead of we, and belonging to a community and a collective that thrive. And you as an individual thrive when you consider yourself a part of the whole. And what we've done over here in the Western world is concentrated so much on the individual, and that has come at a big cost. Yeah.
When I look at dogs, right, I see how when they're together, they're all playful and they're just like cuddling up with each other. And I had a dog once where its mum died and he got depressed. And I'm like, well, it's a dog. Like, why would he get depressed? It's got us, it's got humans. But it shows you that all these pack animals, they do feel the loss of a pack, someone in the pack, the same as we would feel a loss of a human in our friendship group. So if you look at all these packs in society, whether it's pigeons hanging together, whether it's cats on the street, foxes, ants under the ground, everyone's together as a unit. And the only people that are not the same is humans. And we take away like school and university and office place. Outside of that, we're just either individuals or with our partner, and expecting our partner to give us everything that the tribe would give. And it's just not the case.
Yeah, when we belong in community, we have a very different sense of ourself, I believe. And community connection is the medicine of this time. That's why we're seeing so many retreats, so many experiences. Like, it's the age of the retreat, and the retreat is actually more of a return to community. And I do think it's the biggest factor of people going to festivals, going to events and experiences to see and reveal to each other more of themselves, and to be witnessed in that, to be seen in that, and not be so isolated. Because in the macro and the micro, we are isolated. And what is a result of isolation? It's suffering. It's not really getting your social need met. And then addiction comes in, and tendencies to soothe that part of ourselves that just doesn't feel like we are at home. And you can take that into the macro of the world. And then what do? We don't consider ourselves a part of the whole. And then we start to separate ourselves from it and treat it poorly. So it's the biggest conversation probably we can all have at this time, I believe, is how to live in community in a better way. And that takes sacrifice. It takes a lot of sacrifice, because at the moment we've got so many opportunities to use our time, to buy this, to have that experience, and to move so freely and do what we want when we want. So you're going to have to sacrifice that if you live in community, because it's not just about you anymore. And what questions do we have to ask to arrive to that place? Because that is what I believe is most needed.
Have you cut out or have you just stopped talking?
I just stopped talking.
Okay. Your mouth was still moving, but there was no sound.
How was it?
So what came to mind is, let's just say like I could spend a whole day going into London and getting a coffee machine for me, and then going somewhere else for me, and then all day I've done me, and yet you come back and there's the community just chatting around, playing board games with nothing, not doing anything, no phones, no coffee machines. They're just there, present with each other. And then you compare what's more fulfilling, me in my room, my coffee machine, great, can have a coffee, or what just happened when I wasn't there downstairs in the community. And obviously that would always win. And because, like, say our families are not in the same village anymore because we can drive places and fly places and move across the country, that unit of family stability isn't there anymore, which means you have to create a new one. And most people aren't exactly the same like your family dynamic would have been. So now you've got like different strangers and different people and different lifestyles and environments all around you, that it takes time to then try and find a new tribe. And once you've kind of built a connection with one person, then you've got to then spend time building it with another person. And all this takes time. And it's too easy just to go into London, get a coffee machine, all about you, instead of spend time with strangers, 8 hours, really getting to know them and appreciating the difference between you and that person, rather than, oh, I wouldn't really have a chat with you down the pub because we're not the same. And then avoiding them completely. And then you realize when you compare, how does it feel being in that community talking versus going out for the day in London, back in my room in the coffee machine? It doesn't compare. Community will always win.
Yeah. And when you ask people what's the most memorable, fulfilled time of their life, they will always, majority will always speak to the time with the loved ones, with their family. This is what we experienced in COVID, when everyone was forced to stay at home, and there was a different energy that people stopped chasing. They stopped being on the hamster wheel because they're so caught up in the matrix, and whether that matrix is real or not, like it's an interesting thought experiment to be like, okay, what are we actually like moving towards? And it takes a lot of self-reflection and a lot of, again, sacrifice to stop that and take some time to prioritize the things that you know are going to benefit you, because we're all after the same thing. We just want to get our needs met, we want to be loved, we want to be seen, and not to suffer. And I think we're in the age of that, where our parents told us or showed us or modeled a way to live that actually didn't come true. And then you had like the resurgence. You take about the last century, you can really pick apart like what's happened in the trajectory we were on as a culture. And I love going there with this kind of topic, because it really comes down to what makes life meaningful and what is a good way to live. Like how do I want to spend my time, and what does it take to thrive? And it really is that. Like I prioritized community for probably the last 3 or 4 years and disregarded everything else. So it's been a huge part of my journey to readdress like what makes my life meaningful. There's a quote, is like, happiness isn't real unless it's shared. And like watching, being awe-inspired by the Chris McCandless film, like Into the Wild, like it's just a phenomenal point of view around, like sharing your experiences with people is the most fulfilling thing. And I could be constantly chasing certain things because that's what it actually takes to keep this thing going. Everyone's quite busy to keep things going, to keep the status quo, to keep things as they are. But it takes a lot of courage and to be quite brave to go off on a different path, to go against that, because it rocks people. It rocks people in their norm. So yeah, I think it's really important, the conversation that this exists in all of our lives. And I think, as I said, we're letting go of our parents' ideals and reimagining a future. And that's going to take some more podcasts to reach more people.
It's very interesting, because at school I had no friends. I didn't go to uni. I didn't have friends. So I became a lone wolf, and it was all about me. And I became an entrepreneur, which was just self-service and me all the time, just going out. I'll go clubbing by myself, go to the pub by myself, I'll go to events by myself, cinema, everything's by myself. I didn't have any friends to do anything with. And as I'm getting older, the one thing that I wish I had was friendships. And so as I've gotten older and you start to become more of an individual, you become more of you become more out of sync with the average person who doesn't work on themselves. Now it's even harder to create those connections, where if you were at school, you kind of all watch the same programs and listen to the same music. So you're pretty much the same. As you get older, you become your own self, and therefore the others that don't work on themselves become different. And being in a community living place is like what uni would have been like, but with people who I actually like and want to spend time with, or would spend time with outside of uni. And it's allowed me to really reflect on the 10-year journey of me just living life for me independently, visioning that I'd always live by myself and never really have a relationship and just sort of be me and do me forever, travel the world when I want. So, okay, this is what life could be like. This is what life was like, which I never experienced. It doesn't mean it's not there. It is there. It's downstairs. So now I have to reverse kind of 10 years traits of just, if it doesn't interest me in the way that I want to, then I just move on and go back upstairs or go out, and still chasing and seeking this thing, which is just accepting that you are normal and part of a pack like everyone else. And if you don't fit in, that's absolutely fine and normal. Most people will feel like they don't fit in, but rather than you being independent enough to just piss off to London and avoid that uncomfortable situation, most people would sit in it and embrace it. And I realized I have to do that. Can't just be in my comfort zone of, if I'm not getting the stimulation chat that I want, I just go off and go back to my world and do what I do. Like, watching YouTube and podcasts and stuff that is just too easy. No, sit in that uncomfortable place and accept that you're just another member of the sheep pack. Even though I spent 10 years being the shepherd of the sheep pack, now it's like a U-turn. I'm just a sheep, but a black sheep.
Okay, there was a lot in that. The sheep analogy, maybe that's not a preferable one for this, because that is the connotation we use for, I've used for, expressing those that follow others into their own demise, potentially. But yeah, it's true. You do belong to, it's important to belong. I think this is the social pillar, isn't it? And if you haven't got that met, when we're really realizing that, especially as men, right? We've grown up with compare narratives, and men that I've found hard to trust in younger years, mainly because I didn't really trust myself. I didn't know myself, so I couldn't really see that in another. And it's taken a long time to really lean into that a lot more, and just express a lot more in safe spaces. And then when you say conscious, it's like there are more safer spaces around, like judgment and acceptance and inclusivity and these sorts of themes that you will get at the place you are. It's like all agreeing on certain things and then living together, and allowing to move through that discomfort with other people, being witness within it. And that's what it takes. It takes a lot. I'd like to ask you, what's the sacrifice that you're making to live in this community?
I suppose the sacrifice would be spending less time by myself doing what I would otherwise do that's comfortable. As I said, going for a walk, going into London, listening to a podcast, looking at crypto, going out and buying shit, which I've always done. Instead, being downstairs with no phone, just as I am, just talking, flowing, sitting in silence. That's okay. If it feels awkward, you don't need to run off because it's awkward. Just sit there. Like, just don't need to say anything. It's okay to feel that little tension of, what you doing today? Like, be okay with being uncomfortable. Most people, they feel a little bit of dis-ease and they run from it. And instead, it's like learning to just sit in that uncomfortable state, and that is it's okay. And
was there
changing?
Was there a time in your life, because this was true for me, where everywhere I went on my own felt like a dis-ease and sat on my own? I felt like I was being watched, judged, essentially, if you feel like you're being watched, and just didn't feel comfortable in my own company.
So I had Tourette's growing up, so I was always twitching. So twitching is from thinking. So if I was by myself, rather than speaking to friends, I'd be speaking to myself, my voice in my head, thinking, asking myself questions and replying with my own information. So I was always twitching. So I was always being looked at. So I kind of grew up with people just always looking at me. So if I looked over there, I know they're looking, and you just got used to being witnessed, you could say.
Was it uncomfortable, like being on your own, having that awareness?
You kind of get used to it. It's like when you look back, is what would you rather? You'd rather have friends and fitted in and being invited to parties and, you know, people going to like Thorpe Park on the weekend. You'd of course, you'd rather that. But when you accept that, okay, I'm different, so I'm not going to just be miserable. I'm going to do my own thing. And then, you know, you'll regret it when I'm successful and you look back and wish you invited me part of your friendship group. Like I've gone past that stage, and that's just like kind of anger as a kid. And then you work on yourself and you heal all that pain. And then you realize actually you were the lucky one who was able to sit by yourself, whether you are happy or not. Most people can't sit by themselves. So it's like you're with people unhappy, or you sit by yourself and you're unhappy. I think it's important to be able to be okay and comfortable by yourself before you migrate into pack, because then you've always got yourself if that pack isn't there, rather than always needing people all the time and having to always be out all the time. You know, be home and enjoy going out when it's there. Because I used to be somebody who could never sit home all the time, always had to be out. Couldn't sit 5 minutes by myself. Did that U-turn. Now I can spend so much time by myself. And they're like, being out with people is like a dessert after a meal. It's just like a lovely,
it's an addition.
Secondary. Yeah.
I believe that to be true as well. For me, it was the awareness of it didn't need to be this way. Like I knew one day it wouldn't be so, but I need to go through it, need to go down and in and through it to be able to overcome it. I'm not trying to avoid it or like pretend it's not there, or like, the insecurity that I had with not knowing myself, not really understanding these thoughts or why they were there, or the discomfort or the anger that was present, all of the unknown, unwitnessed, unacknowledged, unintegrated parts of myself really that would show themselves as information, as data when I'm on my own, was like, wow, this is fascinating. Can I just be with this? How long is this going to take? You know, but I knew that the light was at the end of the tunnel to be where I am now, really, which is surrounded by people that meet me where I want to be met. And it's incredible, because I always knew that was going to be possible, because I saw people doing it. They're in community. They were with people that really like going on a journey with people, like friends, real deep community. And I never really had that, but I knew it was possible, so I didn't stop. And I think that's what a lot of people do. They just settle for things. And I think it's really important, instead of like looking for the best thing, you start to create it from within and create that level of safety within myself. And when I started to do that, create love, create like a state of being which I was really content with, then that started to attract and to add value to other people, rather than trying to take and gain from the outside of myself.
So here's a dilemma that I'm now going to have to experience. My whole life I've chased mighty success, wanted the big high life, admired and watched successful people grow up and want that lifestyle. Okay. And as I do a full circle and come back into community with just normal everyday to-day people, I now have a decision to make. Do I continue chasing that path of success? And of course, money makes the world go round. We all need money. Money allows you to have a happier life, not necessarily a happy life. And then you come into like communities where money just doesn't exist and you don't need money. It's like, I've got a carrot, you've got a broccoli, let's make a stew. And it's like, well, I don't even need money, because I've got everything I need, the basics of the shelter, food and water. Everyone's got everything. So it's like,
where are these communities?
What that
might exist for 2 days, but like, where are these communities where you can just trade without money? I don't know so many of them.
Well, this is the point. So like, we still need money, but it's like learning that it isn't just about that lifestyle. There is this alternative lifestyle. So it's now balancing out, okay, that is what my mindset is: success and money, wealth, whatever, in business. I know it's not going to be the end goal. It's not going to give me real fulfillment of happiness. Does it mean I don't still chase it? Yeah, of course. But it's reminding myself, when you go there, come back, rather than keep going there. Keep like trying to get higher and higher and higher with whatever that is. It's like, okay, that's not real. It's not sustainable. It always comes back down to downstairs in the kitchen having a chat. That's really going to be fulfilling. So now it's about balancing out what I currently am and will be, and blending it in and not forgetting one without the other.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's really defining what success is for you, and what you're where you're moving towards, like what's your direction. And it can be a spectrum of it all. Like it's not on anyone to tell anyone else how to be, whether they want to live their life walking to India and be barefooted and trade everything, because there's people doing that. And I saw it the other day and I'm like, great, like do that if that's what calls you. But yeah, it's always the middle path. Like for me, meet your edges with that. Go search money, chase money, do it and see how it makes you feel. But that self-awareness and the self-knowledge is so important to do alongside everything else. So the self-inquiry piece is, why am I doing the thing I'm doing? And am I determining this, or is someone else determining it for me? And then, yeah, just coming back to the middle, especially in like your 20s. I don't know how old you are, but in their 20s, it's really that, like finding my edge, and then like coming back. And in our health journey as well, like over emphasis on eating right and moving this way and breathing this way. It's like, it can be too much. And then you start to come back and be like, okay, how do I create balance and just a steadiness and an ease with this? Not rushing, but just really like consistency over intensity, and just bringing ourselves back into balance with it all. And money's a huge piece. And no, I've not seen any more wounds in any other place around money than in the spiritual conscious community. Because people can hide within that, right? And I've done that. I've rejected money because I've rejected the system. It's like rejecting Christianity and then rejecting all religion, but there's pieces in it that are really valuable. So it's not like throwing everything out because something didn't serve you. Money is an energy. It's a belief. It's an idea, and we can trade on that idea, and we can live within the construct of that. And it's important. And I'm on the journey to finding balance within that, and really using it in really good ways. And I've had to go off on a journey to know myself first, so I can come back and be like, okay, now I have a better relationship with myself. I can have a better relationship with this thing that I use to trade for a service, and that is the currency. So like it or leave it, but it's there. But it's a big one. And I just want to say, and I say in the conscious community, because often what I've witnessed is that just lack of conversation around it. And when people don't like being deceived, and when people put a price on something, which is supporting, helping, guiding, potentially should be free, but is not, there's this kind of tension over this. This is very like in the model that we exist in, which is capitalism, post-capitalism, however you want to define it. But it still exists in this model. Yes, these things should be free, but they're not. And we've all got to live and sustain ourselves. So how do we get along and agree on certain things? And there's such a spectrum and a conversation between it all. It's really hard ground to try and find like a balance within it. But yeah, people, it's hard to profit off people's own healing, and that is a journey I think we're all on to understand a bit better. Hope that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. So what comes to me is that someone who wants to be a success in terms of money will end up just sort of getting things that for him, a boat, a bigger house, more shoes. It's all self-centered. Whereas now it will be, when I've got money, it will be serving the community. It's, let's make a meal for 30. You need 10 towels, I'll give you towels. You want buckets to put mud in to grow vegetables, I'll pay for that. So now it's gone from, it would have been about me, my huge unnecessary boat, to who wants millions of boats, right? On a smaller level, which is more fulfilling, because then you get the reaction and the response. Oh, thank you so much, Oliver. This is so great. I now can grow my vegetables. Oh, thank you so much. I've now got a towel. It's freezing. Like, boom, dopamine, boom, dopamine. You get that boat, that dopamine rush will last like 5 days, and then there's no more. Whereas if you divide that boat value into millions of pounds and give it out to millions of people, you've got millions of different dopamines coming back, to the point where we said at the beginning, we wouldn't be on our phones because we're getting so much dopamine in person. our phone is just like, what the fuck was a phone? Like, we've not even checked our phone for days because we're too busy giving out towels and mini boats to people. That's really more fulfilling. And on that note, I did a breathwork thing called anyway, some breathwork thing where it was tapping my throat and put my neck up, and then I almost passed out, and I went through this amazing trip. And like, again, that reminds me that the things that make you really feel good are free, you know, like shit like that is free. Serving somebody is free, even if you don't buy the towel to give them. If you just have a towel that you don't need, go and find somebody who wants the towel. That's free. All these great stuff in life is free.
Yeah.
And I do think that you do have to go through that journey of being selfish and it's all about me and making loads of money to realize, oh, I'm not fulfilled. What makes me fulfilled? Oh, giving some cat on the street some food, and then, you know, that cat leads you to somewhere else, and then you do that. You have to go through that journey to really like feel the truth behind the words.
Yeah, for sure. I relate that to health and wellness as an industry and not as a state of being. Like, we are paying for cold water, we are paying for breathing, we are paying generally because we do those with others. You know, I don't think anyone would pay just to go on their own to do these things, maybe, but like majoritively we're doing it, which comes back to the community. It's like we're doing it with others, and that's what we're paying for, the experience, to connect with others whilst we have these experiences. And that differentiates it a little bit. But the irony is that wellness is an industry, and we do get marketed to, and we do fall under and fall for yeah, like really brands that we want to associate ourselves with. And it's really interesting to like belong to our identity, to be like someone who wears Vivos, and then I get a certain level of understanding or like rapport with someone else. And like, yeah, they're a functional shoe, they do a job. There's a lot of others, but not so accessible. It's interesting to like think about what we're paying for now. We're paying for like connection to the earth and ourselves, but ultimately you can do that any single day. But yeah, I think it's important to like be okay with that and just be like, okay, this is where we're at right now. But it is a state of being, and it's not, you have to pay to be nice to someone. The day we make that transaction is going to be, yeah, pay.
Like, even like with all these mushrooms, right? Lion's mane and cordyceps. Like, I'm starting to think now, you know, I'm sure there is some real growth on a cellular level happening inside us. But apart from that, it's just become like this new brand of mushroom drinks and charging 5-6 quid. It's like, you know, coffee at 3 quid was bad enough, but now it's like a mushroom drink because it's got lion's mane and it's 6 quid. And it's like, there's not actually real evidence that is really changing how the brain is long term. It's like, it doesn't even taste good. It's just, okay, it's good for you. Okay, what does that mean? Am I living longer? Is my blood better? Am I thinking better? Do I need less sleep? And then I can relate that to like vitamins. I take loads of vitamins and I'm thinking, are these doing anything? Like, I was taking vitamin D like non-stop for the past, say, 6 months. And then when I moved in here, I forgot to take it for 4 days because it was just chaos. Ironically, I got ill. Does that mean it is working? Because technically it does. Last time I went to Turkey, I thought, well, I'm going to be in the sun, I don't need to take it. I got ill, which would mean it is having an effect. Vitamin D for sure. But are the other ones having an effect? Or like, as you say, is it just another commodity to people in our field, or what we're going to buy into? Oh, new barefoot shoes that connect to the earth and you can feel the electricity, not just barefoot, but grounding ones as well. Oh, about those, how much are they? 150 quid. That's how much a pair of Nike trainers was. This like mushroom drink and like it's like, what next? Are we just buying into our own like egos of what we think is the right way, you know? And then we realized at the end of it, it was just all a load of nonsense. Like, everything out there is just a product, you know? And really what's important is just coming home with nothing and the basics: people, food, not being obsessed with food and cutting out carbs and only have protein. Like, fasting, just eat, enjoy your life, drink whatever you want to drink, and you'll live longer. Because I know loads of smokers that live like till they're 90. So how does that work? They're really happy people.
No,
They're
I'm not
laughing.
accepting that. I'm not accepting that. The 90-year-old smoker debate, it's flawed. You can't say just because you know a few people that have lived to 90 and smoked, it's a good thing. I'm not allowing
No, it's not a good thing, but like, it shows
Depends,
that if
depends.
you're happy, that's like the main thing.
Yeah, but it's correlation doesn't equal causation. And there's many things like when people go vegan, they also change a lot of things in their life at that time, which I did. They start doing yoga practice, or they start treating people differently, or like start to like have different connections. Like you cannot isolate one thing to say a drink is like move the needle for you. I'm open to that. It's why science is what we know now, and we can't ever pretend that this is the thing that's gonna change so much for us. I think it's yes, and we all need to just get our natural needs met. Like you're an animal, and let's just do the basics: movement, sleep, breathe, social, and have a connection to the earth that is more than yourself. I think the spiritual piece and the lack of meaning that we have, again, it kind of feeds into the community conversation, is a big aspect, and the power of belief as well. If you believe that dirty chai drink is going to help you, then that is the medicine. Like whatever you believe is actually going to help you more than probably the thing itself, because
Yes,
that's why we account for it in trials. It's like the placebo, but also the nocebo effect affects you too. So if you think something is bad for you and you do it anyway, it's going to be even worse. So that is a big part of the conversation. So, mate, it's nuanced, and I don't even pretend to know. That's not my, to pick apart these things. But it's important conversation to have, because we can't outsource our own healing to anything else. Ultimately, we just have to start. It's like outsourcing our own circadian rhythm to an app or a watch. Like we just do it for a period of time, but you can't become reliant on it. And I don't think it's healthy to become reliant on supplements, or because when you take those things away, it's like your body's got used to something and it's like a deficit. And that's how do we integrate these things too? And it's going to be the same with AI. Like how do we not dependent on it, but integrate it? And the challenge keeps coming. So yeah, man. I'm just a big believer in having less is more. And that's rewilding for me. It's like, how do you rewild yourself to become more in alignment? And getting rid of the things you think you need is more to the point. You're getting rid of the accessories, the clothes, the food supplements. Like it's really reducing the amount of things, because most toxins and most things that pollute ourselves are going to be like all the things we think we need to add into ourselves. The skin supplements, the toner, whatever it is, the makeup, the different things that we add into our lives. And it's just about reducing that and simplifying. That's why the carnivore diet works, because you simplify and you eat certain like just one ingredient diet. It's like it works. So yeah, man.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. It doesn't matter what you do to come home, whether you take the mushrooms and you believe they're working, you take the vitamins, you wear your barefoot shoes, you fast, you only have specific foods, you wash all your veg and all your... It doesn't matter. If the end goal is to becoming more conscious and more aware of life and earth and how it works and coming home, it doesn't matter. And yeah, you're right. Don't depend on these things. Like I had a Whoop and an Apple Watch. I sent it back because I was now just typing in the same shit every morning. Up at 8, did the sauna, did the ice bath, coffee before bed. And it was literally each month was the same. Like, okay, I get it. Caffeine actually helps me. Sauna doesn't. Have a hot bath, that works. Don't eat before bed. Okay, I get it. So I sent it back. But it served its purpose of realigning me, which is don't eat before bed. Don't, well, in my case, have a coffee before bed because that helps me sleep. So it served its purpose. Don't depend on anything for too long. Like my dad always said, don't eat everything all the time. Have it in moderation. So you can eat shitty food in moderation. It's just we consume so much of one thing, we get obsessed, and instead just enjoying life and doing what you're doing. That's the end goal, which is just a bit of this, a bit of that, and you win. And yeah, as long as you come home and understand that these barefoots might just be a phase for now, it gets you back to where you should have been, which is as
Yeah.
naturally living as possible, and essentially barefoot without the barefoot shoes, because that is the whole point. Grounding with
I
the
know.
earth.
Laws should be made. You cannot call a shoe barefoot. It just, it's not. It's just such a. It's the irony. A barefoot shoe. Yeah. Sometimes you have to go away to come home, and that is the journey. I think we're all on. We have to go away to come home. Some of us make it back. Some don't, and some are still out there. It's an important distinction.
Is there anything you want to promote or plug before we end?
I always like to say the one best thing I think anyone can ever do for their health, for themselves, is just have a relationship with the ground, sit on the ground more, and not enough people do it. It's just low hanging fruit. I think it's the number one thing that's helped me in my life. Have a relationship with the ground. I don't need to do much yoga when I do that. My body knows how it wants to move. And again, it's like reducing the things we think we need, like the chair, the support, the shoe, the support. It's just as it within, so without. But yeah, plugging my podcast, Chris Geyser podcast, and men's work. I've got a program coming up. Not sure when this is out, but the program starts 10th of March. I've got a retreat in between that. So it's an 8-week program, a 4-day retreat. And it's for 12 men to go on a journey, deep dive into themselves, go within or go without. And it's a program to really gain some clarity and direction and purpose with a community of men that are showing up for themselves and each other. Yeah, it's powerful. Anything else? Yeah, I'm in many festivals this year doing workshops, and I'm sure I'll be at Ansel doing some beautiful things. I want to do a live podcast at Ansel. Don't take that away from me. I'm going to do that first.
And if you had one day left to live, what is one thing that you would share to the rest of the world?
Probably dance moves. Yeah, just pure.
So you're about to die and you share dance moves.
Exactly. Yeah, just embody it, embody expression, and just complete without care, rhyme, or reason, and just be in that flow in that moment and just release it. That's probably one thing. But if it was words, I'd probably say enjoy the power and beauty of your youth, as the great Baz Luhrmann said.
Interesting. No one's ever said a physical gift they'd leave the earth. They've always said words. So you're the first person who's said, I'm going to leave this physical thing. A dance move.
I've got a few special ones I could pull out. Yeah. Beautiful, man. It's been lovely chatting.
Thanks for listening. If you like this episode, please remember to subscribe, turn the bell notifications on, like the episode, and comment below. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's YesKingOliver. Take a look at the other videos to your side. And if you just want to listen to this podcast, you can do so on Apple and Spotify and most other platforms by going to talkwitholiver.com.